As a service to my subscribers, I want to discuss what to do about what I perceive as the coming inflation. Inflation is when you have too much money chasing too few goods, and thus the prices rise. This can be accomplished when you stifle growth, when you stifle productivity. For example, when you lock down an entire country for unknown reasons that we're not going to discuss based on YouTube. But let's just imagine that you have a bunch of imbeciles that shut down like the state of California for an entire year. And then at the same time, you start printing money in order to distribute that to your citizens. Now, the US is probably the one country that can do this. Why? Because the cost of printing the money is distributed worldwide because everybody wants to buy US bonds and loan the United States money. However, today, investors fear that they are going to be paid back, with printed money. You just turn on the monopoly money printing press and you pay for B&O Railroad with, instead of buy it for $200, it's now $2 million because that's how much money is being printed. You can't print $1.9 trillion along with the other prior stimuluses that might have been more justified and not see inflation. Once again, too much money. The demand from the money supply chasing too few goods because you've suppressed creation. Now, historically, there have always been one thing that's pushing back against inflation, and that's productivity gains. It used to be that we would fear that we did not have enough oil. Then we had fracking. We found ways to increase the oil supply. We found ways to grow more grain and vegetables in the same amount of space. So we've increased productivity, the same thing that computers have done, where we're able to communicate with people, where we have an $800 iPhone that we can film what used to cost tens of thousands of dollars in terms of movie equipment and do so in a superior manner. This is the magic of productivity and human ingenuity. Unfortunately, right now, when you see a massive spike in the money supply, gotta see inflation. There's just almost no way around it. Right now, you're seeing stocks inflate. People are pouring all that money into the stock market. You're going to then see it go to the rest of the consumer goods, and you're going to see prices rise. Now, what to do about it, now that I've explained a little bit about what I see as the problem? Borrow money. Borrow money and buy a real asset. And I'm not talking about a motorboat. I'm talking about something like a house. That is a real asset that will increase in value as inflation increases. Then you will be paying back the same amount of money that you borrowed. It's not worth as much as you're paying it back. You're basically shorting the dollar by taking out a loan. This is the same thing that people did in Weimar Germany. You know who won in Weimar Germany when there was massive amounts of inflation and people were hauling around wheelbarrows just filled up to here with money? It was those who borrowed and bought real assets with them. And it's potential, although it's not going to be as likely that the same type of inflation as in Weimar Germany or Venezuela is going to happen here. But nevertheless, there is going to be inflation here. So go ahead and feel free to take out a loan and purchase a real asset that you can then get revenue from in the form of rent, or just the fact that you're saving on your own rent and then living there in terms of a house, or something like Bitcoin that has a fixed and limited supply. And because of the limited supply of Bitcoin, it is seen as a store of value that cannot be monetized, aka they can't print more of it, so you can't take the limited supply away, which is exactly what they're doing with the US dollar today. Of course, they're doing this to bail out the blue states that have horribly mismanaged themselves during the pandemic, the epidemic of the and that is what is going on with inflation. So once again, feel free to borrow money, purchase a real asset, or buy Bitcoin. But whatever you do, the main thing you want to avoid is keeping your money in cash, because otherwise you're just going to be wheelbarrowing that thing around like they do in Venezuela or in Weimar Germany, and your savings will be worthless. So don't keep a lot in cash. Hope that this helps. Little economics lesson. Peace and blessings. If you're new, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumb up, and share it with a friend if you think it's valuable. Peace and blessings.